Hi, and welcome to Horror Movies and Beyond, a show about reviewing horror movies for the living to understand the dead. And I'm your host, Ivotres Littles, and I have three amazing guests: producer Alok Mishra, actress and actor Naomi Grossman, and Clayton Hoff to talk about their horror thriller film, One Bedroom. Okay, so this one is One BR, which is One Bedroom. You could find it on Netflix and Shudder. There is a woman with a tear in the eye, and some strange things in the background. So that is that film. So
Yes, and it's also actually, as of July 1, it's also on Amazon Prime
oh
as
wow, so
well.
it is
And
getting around.
yes, and yes, it's in fact, if you want to help us out, go watch it on Amazon Prime because we get actually paid for that per stream and stuff like
Oh
this.
wow.
So if you watch it over there, we might make like 6 cents. One day these guys are gonna see some money, like besides besides those sweet SAG residuals that you get, every couple of months for $5, they might see some more money if you watch it that way.
Well, go do that. If you're out there, go do that. Definitely check it out. You have to check it out because it's terrifying in a way that it felt like it was more reality, like we live in it, and it just felt more real than any other film that about a woman staying in an apartment and weird stuff happen. I mean,
I think it was very meta in a way because when we were going through COVID,
mhm.
very much became a thing where you're looking at your neighbors and you're like, who are these people? And can I trust that person? Because do they have COVID? Oh, I know those people fucking don't take the vaccination for sure. Like, or like, I know those people are masking up and stuff. So it became a very sort of a meta thing where, because it's about a community and we're all in a community in a sense with this COVID thing, unfortunately. And some people chose to be upstanding community members, let's say, and other people were just like, I love my personal freedom. And we put that person in the room with Sarah if the cult had its way, right?
And then there were like my neighbors who were sheltering in place, Netflixing and chilling, like, most people, and watching and seeing this movie and going, holy crap, that chick lives next door. Janet's at the pool. Like, what? But honestly, I don't know where you are in the world, but for those of us in Southern California, this feels especially close because we've all lived in an apartment that looks just like that. Like that is like the every town, like the the consummate, like you've moved to Hollywood, this is where you live, like some crappy Spanish style just jail.
Stucco, like
Jail.
but always with the pool, so you can use it pretty much year round.
So
when we shot the apartment I was in looked just like this place. I was like, this feels creepy.
So it's about Sarah who tries to start a new life, but her neighbors are not what they seem. What I liked from the get-go is that everyone was different. All the neighbors were so different, and you're trying to figure out, so what's so interesting about them? Like, why, they almost felt out of place, but they were in place. I mean, it was just how everyone just was so different. I mean, when you go to if you ever stay at an apartment, which we all have, it's almost all the neighbors are almost alike. I mean, it just depends on the neighborhood that you're in. Where this one was so there was every nationality, every person you could think of in the apartment. And it was just like, even that's odd, but it kind of goes over your head until you realize why, in which we will get into that. And there'll be spoilers. So,
well, funnily enough, half of those people who were the quote unquote neighbors were our friends and family because we were so poor. We could not afford set extras. And you if you watch the movie again, you will notice myself and my producing partner Shane Vorster and Allard Cantor, we're all producers in the film, constantly having to be in the film because we didn't have enough people. Like, and so like I'm usually moving stuff in the background with Shane, so we're movies number 1 and number 2, and Allard is usually lurking around corners and stuff. He's lurker number 1. So I mean, it's an interesting thing to go back. But look, David Marmer's parents were in the movie. His pregnant wife is that lady at the very beginning. You see, like
Oh,
who's
in the
pregnant and
black?
stuff.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and we had to go back and do reshoots, and she'd already had the baby, so we had to get her a fake belly. So it was definitely like a family affair, and the only person who wasn't in it was Naomi's mom, even though she was there on set a lot because she looked a little too much like Miss Stanhope, and we
Yeah.
couldn't have two like Miss Stanhopes
Yeah, you can't
running
kill
around.
off one old lady, not kill off the other.
Yeah, so we didn't want her to have to endure that. But yeah, it was a lot of like favors that people had to do for us and stuff. And by the way, the reason we had to be in it so much is a lot of people who were supposed to show up wouldn't show up because they're just like, "And I can't drive down the 405 today.
Yes,
It's just too much traffic." And I'm like, the one thing I needed you to do is come and just sit at a table. It's like, so yeah, it's interesting. My nephew's in the movie, like Shane Worcester's daughter's in the like his we all our kids are. I mean, it's a whole family affair. I
Well,
can tell you this.
I was gonna say, you see Alok and Shane and Allard in it so much. Naomi created a drinking game for it. So every time that you see one of the producers, you have to take a drink. But if you at home are gonna play this game, I must warn you, pick something light.
Yeah, like a Zima,
Yeah,
like a Truly.
yeah.
Yeah.
You'll be
Maybe
truly drunk by the end on one
Exactly.
Truly.
Hey,
Wow,
sadly true.
It sounded like a lot of fun making this film. Got a hold of that script along with other producers because you're one of many. How did you know, okay, where are we going to start with this? Where are we going to go with this? And how frightening are we going to make this film be?
Well, I think the thing of it is that David Marmer, who's our writer director, wrote a great script, and we all liked it, and we all agreed, like, listen, we need to make this movie, and we looked for money for it. We couldn't find the money, and we decided we're going to put the money in ourselves. So I might have like mortgaged an already paid off house to like make this movie for my share of it, and then David Marmer actually ended up putting in money too, just in a sequel to all of us and stuff because he bet on himself. And as far as what we were looking for, it was just the script spoke to us because all of us have lived in that kind of apartment, and there's so many times you'd be living in a apartment kind of complex area, and you would just never see someone come out of that building, and you're like, I wonder what goes on in that building. Like I've never seen a person walk out of that building. Of course, in Los Angeles, we're all very obsessed with ourselves, and so we're probably into our car and then out the door. You're not actually sitting out front of an apartment a lot of times, but like on the off chance you are, you never see somebody, you still have those questions. And so it was a really great script, really well put together. We met with David. He's a really super sweet, really super intelligent guy.
Yeah.
Like he was a first time director, and we were first time producers. So we were like, what could go wrong? And clearly, so much. So yeah, I mean, it was just we knew we had sort of a good team going in, and where we didn't have expertise, we hired people that did have expertise to sort of help guide on stuff. And like if we had a great like cinematographer, for example, David Bolin, who like this guy is shooting like. He's gone from our movie to shooting he has like he shot the number 2 movie right now on Netflix is like his right now. It's like something about like it's like a documentary or something like this about some unfriended person. Oh no, made up girlfriend or something it's called. But it's like the number 2 movie on Netflix right now. And he's like shot like Kendrick Lamar videos and Black Lotus videos. This is like he's all like fancy and stuff, and like he came and did our little shitty movie. So we're really grateful that we had a talented group of people that chose to work with us to make sort of the experience in production, which is a nightmare to begin with, go as smoothly as it could have gone in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Hope I answered the question.
It did. So where was this shot? Where location? Because it took place in LA. Did it really take place in LA where the actual shooting?
So we shot in LA. We actually shot for 15 days initially, and then we realized we needed to change the ending, and so we came back. And this was 2017, December 2017, when we shot the first 15 days. And then everyone was so busy, like Naomi like was working, and like Taylor Nichols, who's our cult leader, was working, and we couldn't get the DP back, and so we had to wait till end of August, beginning of September to do like 4 days of reshoots and stuff. And it just so happened it was during this 4 days of reshoots were right during Naomi Grossman had nominated for an Emmy. And so we were like, I know you should be having fun and going to these gifting suites and doing everything else, but can you come back and shoot our little movie? She was like, we had to tell her that, oh, Janice was squandered. We didn't use enough Janice. We need more Janice. And that spoke to her ego, and she came back. Also, I've been friends with Naomi Grossman for 20 years, so she was, of course, going to come back. But I'm making jokes. But she was very sweet to come and bless us when she should have been getting, trips to Barbados in those gifting suites that they have at the Emmys, especially when you're nominated and stuff. So,
although I have to say, I did just go on one of those trips that was gifted at the Emmys. And I wound up what I thought was a nice spa week in Costa Rica was actually an ayahuasca retreat. So maybe you saved me, Alok. For all we know, like I would have gone to some crazy cult in the Caribbean, and you saved me from it. So thank you. Thank you for making me come to the valley to shoot your crappy little movie.
I help out where I can.
Not only did I think that this particular film would be number one on Netflix, but I thought, they say you can't kill a good horror movie. Like, I can't wait for, 1 bedroom, 2 bath, keeping it fresh. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's more to. Janet is still alive. She is hot on the trot. Her husband's dead. Spoiler alert. And there may be more to it. So yeah, sure. Barbados will be there. Listen, I'm gonna get nominated again. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not bitter.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so it was 19 days in total we shot for, and that's very quick, even for independent movies. That's a lot of. It's not very long to shoot.
Really?
And so we had 15 days initially. Then we were like, all right, we got to shoot this, and we got to do some reshoots and get these things done in 4 days and stuff. We had to bring back like almost like a full crew to do all this stuff again. And so it was very super costly because like you got to sign up a SAG and all this crap again. So the lesson learned here is if you can shoot for like 20 days at least for your independent film, you're probably in a much better space than sort of we were and stuff. And like, when you have to deal with like crowds and different things like this increases the time. But the good news was, thank God, like Naomi, Clayton, all these folks, and especially Nicole Bryden-Bloom, who plays our Sarah character, they didn't have, like, Nicole got like 3 hours rehearsed with David. Like, that's it. And then she was just shooting the fucking movie. And essentially, like, 3 hours is not a lot of time, but she would get it on the first take a lot of times. And so we were just like, okay, let's get another one. And we can try maybe one more for just alternative, whatever. But this is the case with all of the actors. They actually all came, knew their lines, were professional, knew what to do. And we're able to just make our days, which was, usually doesn't happen. Like usually you're so far behind and you can't make your days and blah, blah, blah. And especially, first time, filmmaker and first time producers, this is something that can definitely be the case, but thank God, like these guys came and they just delivered. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And and Nicole Bryden-Bloom only got cast like 3 days before we started shooting because we actually had another actress, like a more famous TV actress who was playing the part. And we were shooting on a Thursday and she dropped out on the Monday. And she also had made us hire her friend as the Brian character. We don't know if it was a friend or alleged boyfriend or whatever. That's why I'm doing the air quotes. I can't say who she is either, by the way. Mm-hmm. But because I'm liable. But essentially, she dropped out on Monday. That dude playing Brian dropped out on Monday. And then we went to the bar to hang out for a second to get a drink to kind of like refocus what was our lives are like on the line here, and like everything's falling apart like 4 days before we're shooting or 3 days before we're shooting. And then we got a call that the lady we had originally playing Miss Stanhope, her husband collapsed, rushed to the hospital, he's dead. So now she's not gonna play the role either. Wow. So we're like, we gotta find like three people, three leads, like in 3 days. And so we moved everything back a week, and then we were able to like get Nicole, who was like kind of our top choice, but then this other sort of like much more famous like TV actress came, across our desk, and we were like, this puts us on the black if we hire this lady. And so we did that, and then she dropped out for no reason, and then we got Nicole to come out, like, and she's in New York actually. She lives in New York.
Oh,
We
wow.
got her to come out like just on the very last minute, and that's why she only got 3 hours to rehearse with David. At the end of the day, we're worried about our Brian character, and finally Giles Maddie calls at like, his agent calls at like 7:00 or something, and we were just like, oh my god, why did he wait so long to call? And he was driving down from like San Francisco or something, and he'd pull over to the side of the road, and he read just his part of the script on his phone and said yes. And we were like, all right, I was offended that he didn't read the whole thing, but Naomi tells me that actors don't really read the whole script all the time. They just read their part to make sure they're not in a porno. So
is that true?
Listen, you're gonna read the whole script before you shoot the darn thing. But I mean, you'll read it eventually, but it could happen that a actor would skim and make sure it's not some snuff movie before he agrees to it. Sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
okay.
we were very happy that we got our cast at least by that Friday, because we were starting on Monday, but we were just sweating that people would even show up on the Monday problem.
It
But
really just depends on how desperate the actor is. That's the truth of it. You know what I mean? Like, listen, De Niro is reading his scripts in their entirety before, but it's no offense to Giles, because I've done it myself, where you're like, okay, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And then you read it. And then and then you kick yourself.
Okay. Well, speaking of casting, which was really, really good. The first person you meet, once Sarah's already there and she's going to check out the apartment, is Janice, which is you, Naomi. You're the first person she meets. How did you embody yourself, Naomi, as Janice? Because out of all the characters, I think you and Lester, Clayton, were very prominent of what was really going on there. It was like on one side of the fence versus the other. One suffered when he lost his eye and stuff like that, because he probably didn't follow the rules or tried to leave. Whereas Janice was by the rules. I could feel like she had the strength in there. So for Naomi, how did you figure out, okay, this is Janice and this is, she means business?
Yeah, well, I think, as with any acting class will teach you, like, you every character has needs, right? And in my case, Janice is a mom, and she wants her daughter to grow up with structure and with discipline, and so I think at the end of the day, she's always thinking about like what's going to be best for her family. I was just thinking, gosh, when you're in a cult, you're kind of, you've drunk the Kool-Aid. You're adhering to those rules. And so, yeah, I'm glad that you picked up on that. That was, being a rule abider was part of her. She's, I'm very much the opposite. Like rules are made to be broken. Like I'm much more less letter in the law and more whatever the opposite is.
Well, I was going to say, I think the Janice character really is very much a queen bee of sorts. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, Jerry's in charge in theory, but like, I think that like who really wears the pants in that relationship is probably Janice, because she probably just looks at him and he's like, okay, and so, but yeah, he's the leader, right? So yeah. I think that's sort of an understated sort of thing that Naomi brought out through her performance and stuff. I thought that was really smart.
Yeah, because even I put here in my notes, though Jerry is a leader of the group, I think he was the one that carried out the mission, and the influence was Janice. that I kind of felt that just the way she was the very first person you meet. And when she's like showing Sarah around, it was like structured, follow me. Because when Sarah, after she went through an ordeal, and I remember that time where she was outside, like finally getting air, and Janice was like, you gotta meet everybody. It was just like follow the rules. And I kind of felt that, like, that's what I was getting out of it, and I'm just sticking to it.
Good.
Well,
Sounds like I need an Emmy already.
technically, it's actually Brian she first meets, and it's very purposeful because essentially, like, she's in the hall. And he's like, "Oh, don't worry about that alarm, that door." It's
that is
in.
right.
But
That
it's
is
purposeful.
right.
It's purposeful in a way that he's
That's
the
right.
honeypot, right? He's the
Yeah.
honeypot. He's like drawing her in, and then Janice is like the kind of the discipline and, like, whatever.
That's
Although
right.
he turns out to be equally as horrible for what he does.
Because she was she couldn't get into the apartment, and it buzzed her in, and she was like, Sarah was like, "What is this?" And he was like, "Oh, there's some rubberies or whatever." Even then I'll be like, "Nah, I don't need this apartment that bad." But that is right. She did meet him.
But I mean, I think Janice, but to your point though, Janice is the first person that sort of, like, looks at her and talks to her a bit more than even engages her. And then also Miss Stanhope, obviously, is like, doddering old crazy lady comes in the thing to, like, fake faint or whatever, and then
it's funny. I feel like but you said this yourself when you said everyone's so diverse, and initially I was thinking what you meant was all colors, all creeds, all sizes, all ages, all everything. But it's also just like you're saying, like, I think there's good cop, bad cop. Like Miss Stanhope's kind of the, what's his name? Brian is the honeypot. Janice lays it down. She, she's the bad cop. So I think we all kind of fulfill a different sort of role in this cult. You think it's one thing, it's it might be the other.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think that's where Lester comes in, because he appeared to be like this creepy, one-eyed Willie eye patch, but I think he was the warning. I felt like he was the warning at the time when he showed her the book, and she was like, and then he kind of scurried away very quickly. So for Clayton, for that character, he was very quiet and timid, but I felt like he was the alarm bells, the red flag.
Well, I mean, in that sense, like, I mean, he is the physical embodiment of the warning. You see the physical scars on him. And I mean, for me, he was a lot like, a beaten dog, who, when it was young, it was hit by its master. And you see dogs like that they're very quiet. They're off to the side. They don't really engage because there's that fear. And in terms of embodying Lester, I mean, a lot of that didn't really happen until first day on set when I put on the glasses. You put on those glasses with the patch on it, you can only see out of one eye. And it, physically, it made sense that he would lead with that eye, and everything he did would lead with that eye. And he had his ear wounded, and he couldn't hear out of one side. He can only hear out of that side. So everything physically he approached from that one side. I mean, we didn't have a lot of time in lead up to production, from being cast to production. And so David did such a great job with the script. I mean, he put the kernel of Lester's, the embodiment of Lester, in that scene with Sarah and Miss Stanhope, when she's like, "Hey, you have that book too? Did that creepy guy give this to you?" And Miss Stanhope says, "Oh, Lester, he's not creepy. He's just sad." And to me, that was the embodiment of Lester. He was a prisoner in this place. And he needs to abide. And if he doesn't, who knows what's next? What's the next punishment for Lester? Is it, like Handmaid's Tale, where they cut off your hand? Like what does that look like? And, he did such a great job of writing Lester in a way to fool the audience, to where the audience thinks that this is the bad guy. And, with a face like this, I usually only play bad guys. And it was a wonderful surprise to be the hero, And so it was great to be able to do something like that. And Lester is a really compassionate and empathetic person. He has the empathy to actually try to save Sarah and risk whatever that next level of punishment may be. Just working from that physical aspect of the torture and the indoctrination was powerful for me and palpable to bring to that.
And so the whole time it seemed like they were conditioning her to see if she could stay in the cult, but also conditioning her to be your partner.
That was the whole point. They were looking for a replacement for her, in this community for her role. They were looking for someone to be Lester's wife, And so I guess I'd never approached it that way or thought of it that way, that Jessica, my wife, had maybe had been a victim in the same way that Miss Stanhope was victimized by the group. But I think that that's a really powerful insight,
If I weren't already married to Jerry, I'd marry you, Clayton. I'm serious. You're my favorite character.
Well, you guess what? You can dig him up.
Maybe like in the prequel, like the real reason Lester lost his eyes because Janice and Lester, had a fling.
Yeah, I like it.
but then that
maybe
brings me...
Jessica had to go.
Yeah.
Well, that brings me to the whole cat thing. About apartments and their rules, because who hasn't had a pet, and you go to an apartment and no pets allowed, or you have to pay all these fees to have your pet, and you just have the pet in there, and it's like, be quiet, meowing, no nothing. And then when Sarah got that slip under the door, and it was like some people were fucking allergic or whatever, and then that's where you see Lester in the shadows, and I'm like, okay, did he do that, or he could have? See, that's the thing. He could be trying to get her out of there the entire time, because there was one point where when they had finally put the cat, okay, that was messed up, the cat in the oven.
Well, look, that's the one thing everyone gets us on. It's like we'll have like terrific reviews, and we'll come to the cat, and people are like, I saw them kill a cat. I give you 1 star, and I didn't even watch the whole movie because I stopped right when they killed the cat. And I'm like, look, the cat doesn't look real at all. It's not a real cat. I just want people to know that. And secondly, like, David Marmor wrote that thing because he's a huge cat lover. And he like if he was here on this interview, he would have cats crawling all over him, and he always does. Like, he has like cat butts and the camera, and like, so the worst thing, the most worst thing he could think of was to have a cat killed, and let alone in this fashion. And in fact, he wanted to do something far worse to that cat, and we were like, yeah, we can't do that. So it's controversial, but look, it does the cult is in all sort of trying to control all facets of her life.
There were some things that kind of like stood out to me when I think it was said 3 times in the film, when it was like, my fucking life, it's your fucking life. And even though they were being said, the situations, especially with Sarah, the first time was in the apartment when Lisa was telling her after she forgot to go to Brian's apartment for some party. And then like the other time is when her hands were on the wall, when Sarah's hands was on the wall, and that is a position that looks so uncomfortable. Have you guys tried that position where her hands is like to the wall and leaning? Like, during the filming? Did you guys try to see if you guys could do that? I'm just curious.
Didn't David get that from like
Yeah,
some-
it's a military, actually.
Yeah.
It's a form of torture that they actually do use in real life and stuff. And actually,
Really?
if you go to Asia or India, let's say, when kids have been bad, a lot of times they'll put them in that position. It's almost like not only you have to go to the corner, you got to go to put you in that position because you've been bad. So it's something that's used in real life, like in different different contexts and stuff. Like I said, especially like the disciplined kids in Asia.
Do you do that to your daughter, Alok?
No,
I'm just imagining her as
How
like
could you ever do
4-year-old.
that to her? She's so sweet.
I do like to put her in the corner. She's not the best girl all the time, but I don't put her. I don't put her in that position. No, that's not what I do.
Okay, good.
We are in
looks
America. We are in
painful.
America.
I spent
It
a lot
looks
of time in the
painful.
corner as a kid.
So I want to go back to the Janice character. I was so drawn to her because I felt like she was such a something about her that just stuck out to me, and it was her attitude. Her attitude that it was just get over it. Like whatever it is, get over it. Especially when she was introducing people, it was just like, this is what it is, get over it. Do you think when she went through the process, do you think that she suffered? Or because you saw the black chick when she had the wounds in her hand, because obviously they nailed it, but you didn't see anything from Janice. Do you think like she was just in for it, like just down, like do it, or she went through some suffering in order for her to be so rigid? What do you think, Naomi?
It's a good question. I now I feel like maybe you should take my Emmys away, because I never thought about it actually. Yikes. I shouldn't even admit that, but I haven't gotten the Emmy, by the way. I didn't even get the trip to Barbados, but no, I don't know. I think I have. The more I think about it, ever since this movie, I feel like cults are very much in my zeitgeist. Like I'm kind of always looking around, and between the Scientology Center that I used to ride my bike by en route to yoga every day, to my own yoga cult, which Alok actually coined the name because he's like, dude, we do these podcasts and I could not miss my class. Like, and he's like, well, what's going to happen to you? Are they going to put you in the military position if you don't go to yoga? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to find out. Like, and it's true. Like that was a bit cultish. And there's other cults. I mean, for that matter, it's entirely possible that ayahuasca retreat that I went on in Costa Rica was also a cult. They wouldn't let me leave when I tried. So the fact is, I think that yes, there is that lady like Janice who's like, get over it. This is what we do. You know what I mean? Like, I probably am that lady in yoga, because I'm like, yeah, it's hard. You do it every day for 22 years, it's less hard, And then there's other people, like I couldn't drink that stuff in Costa Rica for, like, I'm still having nightmares about it, and I'm sure there are other people like, what's wrong? Like, okay, 2-0 Jules, like, what's wrong? You can't even handle like some, plant-based medicine. Like, wow. So yes, that I think that lady exists in cults, and in this particular one, it was Janice.
Mm-hmm. For Lester, like I said, like he spoke to me. It was something about him. I was like, I just felt like he was the one that he suffered the most loss. And not only just his wife, but his eye, because it seemed like he didn't listen. Especially when Jerry was like, look at his eye, like, look what happened to him, Do you feel like when he saw something in Sarah that she doesn't belong, that maybe it was his time to get someone out instead of keeping them in. Because even when she went to his apartment, she was like, what about my apartment? He's like, oh, those are for new recruits or whatever. But he never seemed to force himself. He never seemed to do anything like that. It was at one point where she was like cooking and she was like looking at the knife and he was looking at her like, don't do it. But I don't think it was like, don't do it or I'm going to tell. I think
Exactly.
you won't survive. Like if you try to do something, there's no chance for you. Just wait, you know.
Well,
Do you think?
mean, in the scene with Lester and Sarah in the bedroom, he,
Mhm.
you know, is telling her like, look, this is our life. Like, this is what we have. You know, you need to accept it. If not, it's going to be hell for you. And yes, I mean, I think that everybody who came into that building, you know, Lester had compassion and empathy for and wanted to help them escape, wanted them to not be there and endure what he had to endure, you know, but he had to go along with the ruse because if not, I mean, you know, like I said, who knows what that next level of punishment was, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was definitely a hard person to break and to get into, you know, to drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak. Um, so, you know, he definitely felt for Sarah. He definitely didn't want her there. Yeah, there's parts of him that he wanted the companionship, you know. He definitely wanted that. He was definitely lonely, you know, but he would rather her be able to go to live free, you know,
You know,
because
I'm reminded of another cult I was in, which I shouldn't talk like this, but the Growlings. The Growlings
Oh,
Theater in Los Angeles, which would, if they allowed it, would be the greatest reality show on television. Like it's totally Survivor. It's like, but the island is on Melrose. You know what I mean? And a very, very select group of comedians, like actually, you know, survive. And yeah, and to be honest, and I'm not going to name names, but there's a really abusive director at the helm there. And the fact is, I quit acting for a full year after she did her number on me. And I've actually even told them, by the way, it's messed up what you've got going on down there. And they honestly, they're Janices themselves. Like, they're like, yeah, we survived it.
Deal with it.
Like, yeah, I know she's awful.
Wow.
And she's been here forever. She was hell for us. She was hell to you, and that's just the way it is around here. And so yeah, I do think that there is a certain amount of like, you know what, I survived it. This is it.
I mean, well, you know, Southern California is full of cults, right? Like, you know, Marmor wrote the thing, and he kind of based it off of not only our friends in Scientology, and we don't want Naomi to get snatched, so we won't say.
Oh my God, I'm totally gonna get snatched between Melrose and Fountain. How am I even gonna leave my house?
Yeah. So it's funny. Like, she lives down the street, not too far from Taylor Nichols in real life, like, who's our cult leader, and then they both like live near the Scientology stuff. But there's another cult called Synanon, which was like a drug rehab cult that first, you know, it was a noble pursuit in the way that they could actually help people get over drug addiction and stuff. And that was something that was, you know, not really looked upon. It was something, drug addiction was very frowned upon in like the 60s, early 70s and stuff. And these guys started off doing that, and the government would send them people and all this good stuff. And then slowly devolved into sort of this cult of personality where there's some murders. Or actually, there's like an NBC movie of the week about that entire thing. And they eventually moved up north and decided, like, you can never get over drug addiction. You have to always stay with us, was the idea. And then they shaved their heads, and a young filmmaker named George Lucas was making a movie, his first movie, THX 1138. And many, many, many of the extras are from that cult. Fun fact. So yeah, because they had all shaved their heads, and it was perfect. He was like, "Yeah, be in my movie." So yeah, that's what happened there. But eventually, there were some deaths, and people got arrested, and the whole thing fell apart, much like they all do. But like, look, we still have it going on in this day and age. Like I remember we had already shot the movie, and then the Nexium cult thing was coming out, and people were like, "Yeah, they branded people," and I was like, "Well, we came up with that like 7 years ago. Like when David wrote the script 7 years ago, so we didn't copy that from them or anything like that, you know."
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, it still happens. Southern California is a place of like seekers, and when they come out here and they realize that there's like there's 100 people just like them who are actually better looking than them or whatever. They're just looking for some sort of like I guess some sort of first off family, but secondly it's acceptance in some way. And so that's why I think a lot of people who come out here fall into those sort of traps and stuff. And like I said, David saw all of that when he first came out here. I mean, he even lived in the same sort of apartment complex. He had a misbegotten cat. He wasn't supposed to have a cat, and so that's why he wrote the cat in like he did and stuff, like I was afraid it was going to escape. A lot of these experiences are based off of like real life. And I think that's going back to the main point you had mentioned earlier, why this seems very real and could be, is because it kind of is happening or has happened like for real here in Southern California.
Oh wow.
We had actually an alternative ending, and I can't tell you too much about it, but it was a thing where Clayton doesn't die. The director had in his head that he was like, it was during Me Too, and he was like, I don't want her to escape on her own steam. And we were all like, look, if she could do that, if it was that easy, wouldn't everyone do it? So we were like, and we did so much more like the arc of Clayton's character, because he essentially sacrifices himself for her and stuff. And it was more satisfying on two levels. One, his arc of character. Two, I think that sort of the end, or is it ending? Because that we wouldn't have had that ending had we done the other version of it. That sort of Twilight Zone, the end or is it sort of ending, is a much more satisfying ending, I think, for the audience and stuff. And I used to test movies for a living. I did market research for film for 18 years, and so we did do some testing with it, and that's what the audience kind of told us, was that they really enjoyed that ending, better and stuff. And as a greedy money grubbing producer, it helps us know that there could be a franchise, a sequel, and more money that could come to greedy money grubbing producers if we went with that ending. So that's what happened.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I think you're doing it out of survival, my friend. Because you did allegedly mortgage off already paid off house. So
yeah, still not paid all the way off. One day.
People talk about that, like being in jail. They're like, hey, it's not so bad. I got my rent paid. Like I don't have to like I'm set in here, like, so it's a thing, like being like missing your captor, like
there's some Stockholm syndrome stuff going on, sure, but like I think to make it believable, we had to actually make it seem like ultimately their tactics are horrible, but ultimately this cult actually does want the best for Sarah. Like they're trying to teach her like to be nice to each other, to be nice to other people, to be selfless. I mean, that's one of the tenets of their whole thing or whatever. They are trying to teach some positive things. However, it's just the way they go about it that is a bit, of course, off. But we do get her believing it to the point that she's passing the lie detector test, and they're ready to like kind of usher her in to being a full-fledged member and stuff. And Naomi had that shitty little cake. David was so mad about that because he was just like, how's that cake gonna feed 50 people? Who the fuck got this cake? And we're like, well, we can't go get another one now. We just gotta shoot this shit. I was like, just shoot it. No one will notice. And everyone notices.
people that I've interviewed, especially actors, they always seem to take away from the characters that they play. Is there something, Clayton, is there something that you took away from Lester's character that you realized wasn't there from the moment when you started to play that character?
Wow, it's a deep question. Something that I took away personally in my life. Um, hmm.
Because some characters grow on people. Like I, you put yourself into a character to bring a character, but then you realize I didn't know I had that. I didn't know I had that to bring out that character, and sometimes it sticks with you. Because Lester just, he was this very timid person that seemed to, get some abuse at his own way, but at the end he sacrificed himself where he could have just left. But maybe he just, his wife was gone. Maybe he was tired. I don't know.
What was the
question? What did you take away from your character that you played that you personally may have realized that, or that you did not realize when you played the character, like you took away from it for your in real life? Because Janice was tough. Janice was tough.
You've been jumping the actors all afternoon.
That's great. It's a great question. I don't know. There's something there with Lester that definitely resonates in sort of, how he just kind of went along with everything. He had fight, but he had that spirit broken. And something that was just powerful. And I don't know necessarily, I could say I took it with me, but that it's never too late to change. It's never too late to do the right thing. It's never too late to, rectify what is wrong, and him helping Sarah escape was sort of his salvation. And I guess, I can look back at that role and seeing that and just tell myself that, I always have the opportunity to change my life. It goes into what you said. It's your fucking life. It's your fucking life. So
badge up.
Yeah.
Bad job.
Great question, by the way. It's a great question.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
That was a great response, Clayton.
Yeah.
Made me a little teary. I want a better life. I can do it. I know I can do it. I'm gonna tell you what I took away as mover number one. Bend your knees when you're lifting things. That's a tried and true rule. I learned that from being mover number one, and I use that all the time now, especially when I'm picking up that baby. I got to use the knees. Don't hurt the back. Use the knees. So exactly. That's what I took away from it.
Lifting 101, my friend.
Naomi, is there something you took away from your character, Janice?
Let's see. Sorry, this contractor is asking, are we still doing this?
We got a few minutes.
Okay, no worries.
Less than, yeah.
My takeaway from Janice.
Because she was pretty tough. She was very by the rules, but talking to you, you're very bubbly and talkative.
We have nothing in common. I like playing characters that are as far away from me as possible. That's probably a conversation for a therapist and not you, but it's true. When people are like, "Oh, just throw it away, just play yourself," I'm like, "Ew!" No. If I want to do reality TV, I would, but I don't. So I won't. Gosh. One thing I learned is I don't cook, and that's very obvious in the chopping scene. Clearly, I've never made a salad in my life. Like I buy the prepackaged ones, and that was very embarrassingly obvious for the world now. I don't know how many people. Alok probably has the exact number of how many people have watched our movie,
Well,
and they all know how I cannot chop.
Marmer came up to her like in between scenes, like, you don't cook much, do you? And she's like, no. And he was like, yeah, we can tell. Like,
it was pretty bad. So I don't know that I learned it from Janice per se, but I definitely learned as an actress, like, I needed to have practiced that. Like, that's such a small little dumb thing, but yeah, if Janice is cooking dinner for her family every night, because let's face it, I've already established like that her family is the most important thing to her, then yeah, she's gonna need to feed them, which might involve cutting some cucumbers. And so yeah, I needed to have practiced that. That was more for Naomi to learn as an actress.
I'll say this. I think Naomi also learned something else, and this going back to the yoga cult. She learned she was indeed in a yoga cult with a cult leader, and she finally did escape from that cult leader, actually, because that cult leader was fucking cuckoo. And like, I was just like telling her, I'm like, I think you are in a cult. And she's just like, no, they're harmless, and they're letting us do COVID at their house. No, do a yoga at their house during COVID. So it's like a underground yoga studio. And I was like, yeah, but they really do feel like a cult. Like they feel like you need to be there every day. You look down upon them. You don't do it. And finally, like this, she escaped. Like it was a traumatic thing. You see Sarah at the end of the movie, like laughing like a hysterical person, gripping her bloody hands and this and that. But I think that emotionally, Naomi Grossman was doing that too. And she left.
That's true. Wow. That was me leaving my yoga studio.
That's what you learned from the movie, though. That comes full circle.
Yeah. So now the film, now you're aware. You have that intuition of cults. Like, no. Oh, that's one.
They're everywhere. I had no idea.
You guys were great. This was good. Aww, the message was clear.
You were certainly the Oprah of horror. The way that you came up with that, those deep questions that got to us.
For real.
I do my best.
We can do these in our sleep. During COVID, we must have done this once a week. This was my chance to interact with someone not in my cult. And yet you were asking questions we've actually never been asked before. So kudos to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very insightful. It was appreciated.
Well, like I said, I took notes, so I was serious.
You do the homework. I
could have went another 3 hours, but I don't want to do that. But thank you so much.
Believe it or not, we could too. I don't know that the contractor could, but we can talk and talk and talk.
You guys out there, you guys have to check out this film. Amazon Prime. Go to Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime. Yeah.
Check it.
And listen. If you like the movie, please tell your friends. If you can even do us a bigger favor, if it's on Amazon Prime, give us a nice rating. Give us a nice rating wherever you watch it. Shudder has ratings too, as does Netflix. I think has a thumbs up, and thumbs down. But most importantly, tell your friends. Because word of mouth is so important for a small horror movie such as this. It really does. Like, it's good word of mouth on a film is better than any trailer I can pay to have cut, right? Mm-hmm. Like, literally, if you tweet about it, if you talk about it on Facebook or wherever, that helps us immensely. And the more people that watch it, the more people that are gonna enjoy the sequel, if you know what I mean.
I know. Okay. See, I'll go on another hour. I'm gonna stop because there was something I was gonna say, but that would have been a whole hour conversation. But we'll talk later. Once again, thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.